Renault was founded in 1899 by the Renault brothers, Louis, Marcel and Fernand. Marcel and Fernand had developed business skills from working at their father's textile firm, while Louis was a keen engineer who had built prototypes before going into business with his brothers. Between 1898 and 1903, Renault built their first car, the Voyagette. It was initially sold as a one-cylinder, two-seater model, but later models featured 2 cylinders and 4 seats. In 1899, a model was built with a roof and doors. It became the world's first saloon. In 1903, Marcel Renault died aged 31 during the Paris to Madrid race. From 1905 to 1910, Renault built the Type AG, their first purpose-built taxi, of which over 3,000 were built. In 1911 to 1928, Renault built the 40CV, their first luxury car, powered by a 7.5 litre to a 9.1 litre 6-cylinder engine. In 1918, Renault starts building tractors. Its first model was the Type GP, and by 1938, Renault was France's biggest tractor manufacturer. In 1922, Renault starts building the 6CV. Their small family car featured a 1 litre 4-cylinder engine and was capable of up to 43 miles an hour. It stayed in production for 9 years. In 1925, Renault starts using the diamond logo. In 1926, Renault launches the Viva 6, an executive car with a 3.2 litre 6-cylinder capable of over 80 miles per hour. In 1929, Renault launches the Renault Stella. Gianni Rena commissioned Renault to build him a large luxury car. Rena designed the car, and Renault put it into production for 4 years. It was 5.3 metres long and powered by a 7.1 litre 8-cylinder engine. It was a heavy model at 2.5 tonnes and capable of nearly 90 miles per hour. Not many were built though, and most of those that were got scrapped during World War II to make use of their aluminium to aid the war efforts. In 1937, Renault launches the Durocat, a cheap small family car available with a range of 4-cylinder engines. It was built in 5 body styles, including a van variant. It stayed in production for 23 years. The war years were very turbulent for Renault, with Nazis and key individuals from Daimler-Benz taking control of many of his factories. Louis Renault stalled the Germans and even set about sabotaging his own vehicles, most of which were the AHX trucks. He had redesigned the engine oil dipstick to show an incorrect reading, meaning that a lorry that was about to run out of oil would show up as having a sufficient level. This led to the Renault-sourced Nazi vehicles suffering from engine failures. Following World War II, the French government was controversially looking to arrest Renault for collaborating with the Germans during the war. He surrendered prior to this. Despite this, he was sent to prison, where he was brutally attacked by prison guards and suffered a broken neck vertebrae. However, French authorities did not allow an autopsy to be carried out at first. Later on, his company was nationalised, with the French state taking full control, despite Louis Renault's wife and family owning the company, and his will stating that the company to be shared out between them and his 40,000 employees. 8 decades later, and a settlement has still not yet been found between the French government and the Renault family. In 1947, Renault launches their first post-war car, the 4CV. It had been developed during the war, under the radar, as the Germans had banned the French manufacturers from developing anything that wasn't a military or commercial vehicle. It was inspired by the Citroën 2CV, a model that had also been developed under the radar. It was designed to be simple, cheap to buy and run, but also spacious enough for a family of 4. It was the first French car to sell over 1 million units. By 1950, Renault was building nearly 60% of all French manufactured tractors, which equates to nearly 8,500 units. In 1951, Renault launches the Frégate. During the late 1940s, Renault had an image problem, with all of its products either being small cheap cars or commercial vehicles. The Frégate was developed to bring back the middle-class customers. It was available as an executive saloon or large family estate. Initially a sales success, but in 1955, Citroën introduced the world-changing DS, a car that was hugely advanced for its time and dominated the European executive class for years. It crippled the Renault sales figures, and a few years later, they stopped developing their own large cars and sold a rebadged American AMC Rambler as the Rambler Renault. However, it wasn't a sales success, with the American V6s and V8s being nowhere near as economical as Renault's original 4-cylinder engines. In 1956, Renault launches the Dauphine. At the time, Renault management had considered converting the business to only building commercial vehicles. However, with the success of the 4CV, they decided to develop a car to sit above it in their lineup. The Dauphine was a massive sales success. At the time, it was the fastest car in Europe to hit 1 million sales, taking only 4 years. In its 10 years, over 2 million were sold, At one point, it was even built under license by Alfa Romeo. 1961 saw the launch of the Renault 4. It was built for over 30 years and had production facilities in 16 countries across the world. It was the first Renault to be named using the new number-only naming strategy, something Renault would stick with for over 3 decades. It was Renault's first ever front-wheel drive family car, as well as the world's first ever hatchback. During its life, over 8 million were built. It featured a unique offset suspension setup, where the wheelbase was longer on one side than the other. This was cheap to build and gave a very comfortable ride. 1962 saw the launch of the Renault 8. It was a rear-wheel drive, rear-engine small family car. It stayed in production for 15 years. More importantly, this was the car that saw the launch of the Dacia brand, which was set up by the Romanian government, which was later to be bought out by Renault themselves. In 1965, Renault launches the 16, the world's first large family car with a hatchback boot. It was the first continental car to win the European Car of the Year title in 1966. It was the third ever car to win the title, with the first 2 wins coming from British makes, with the 1964 win going to the Rover 2000 and the 1965 win going to the Austin 1800. As well as the hatchback design, the Renault 16 had other innovations such as an electric cooling fan and an aluminium engine. As well as being equipped with these unique features, it was praised for being cheap to run, as well as being spacious and practical.